This is Nate Bain, Titans social media manager.
Hey everybody, it's Rhett Bryan, game day host of Titans Radio, and you're listening to the Titans of the Southwest podcast with Lito and Big Mo.
And welcome to another special episode of the Titans of the Southwest with your host Big Mo and my buddy
Lito.
We're here. We just got finished, wrapped up an interview with Amie Wells, directly with the Titans at Titans Amie. Lito, how do you think that went?
Oh, Amie is so cool. She is just ridiculously cool. We talked about so many things about, her history, going forward, and then just getting to know her as a person. Because, we see her on everything Titans related, but that's all, edited and in front of the camera. But it kind of seems like we got a little bit of a peek in, like, how she is and who she really is. And she just seems like somebody you just want to have a beer with and hang out and
binge watch some shows with.
Binge watch some shows, watch some football, talk some football, I'm sure she's got a few shows that aren't even on our radar that she can kind of help us out with, but yeah.
Yeah, I thought it went really well to speak on her professional background, kind of how she wound up with the Titans. Also discussed a little bit about her role with the Titans, talked about her podcast a little bit, the OTP, Official Titans Podcast. Discussed working with Mike Keith. She had some very interesting stories about working with Mike. It was nice to hear some of her little tales from behind the scenes. I had a great time, man.
Yeah, super cool. And she just ranted and raved about Mike Keith, and she's quirky, I think is a good word to say it, but like in such a fun and awesome way.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end of the interview, which you guys will listen to, we kind of asked her who is Amie a little bit outside of football. Like we kind of geared that way to kind of get to know her more than what we see, as you mentioned, on the video clips, on the updates we see from the team. And I thought that was really cool, man.
Yeah, just a blast, and it helps. Now I have a few things that whenever I see her on camera or any kind of press conferences and things like that, when we kind of keeping an eye out for these things that she kind of mentioned, as well as obviously listen to whoever's on the podium or what's going on, but just these little things that she kind of gave us an insight to. It's going to be a lot of fun now going forward, and I think everybody else, after they hear this interview, they're going to know what I'm talking about, and they're going to kind of keep an eye out for it as well, and kind of just add an extra layer of fun to all the stuff that they do.
Definitely, man. So let's not keep anybody waiting. We'll get right into it. I just briefly wanted to say, if you're not following Amie Wells, please do so at Titans Amie. I mean, she keeps us up to date on a lot of content related to the team, has phenomenal interviews, just a really great follow. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and go follow her. And Lito, if you're ready, let's jump into the show.
Yeah, man. That's Titans Amie with AMIE. Just in case. But yeah, let's jump into it. Hope you guys enjoy it, and tighten up.
Tighten up.
Follow us on Twitter at Titans Southwest, and remember to like and subscribe to the podcast, as well as review and share.
All right, everybody, welcome to another special episode of the Titans of the Southwest podcast. Joining us today is Amie Wells from the Titans. Amie, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to be talking to you guys.
We're excited to have you. Lito's here too. Lito, want to tell everybody what's up?
Yeah, I'm also here. I'm just really thrilled to have Amie on. She's been awesome. If you ever watch any kind of Titans video or anything associated with the organization, Amie. She's been great enough to kind of be in contact with us and join us, and I'm excited. We got some stories that we're going to be hearing, I'm assuming, and we're just going to kind of chat and see where you're at with everything. So let's go.
Definitely. And if you're not following her on Twitter yet, I mean, I don't know what's wrong with you, but her handle is at Titans Amie. You could, find out more information about the team, some insights she's doing. And her and Mike Keith recently started up the OTP, the Official Titans Podcast. So be sure to give that a listen. Amie, we kind of want to get into your professional background a little bit, if you could touch on that for us.
Absolutely. So this is season 8 for me in the National Football League. I spent 2 years as a public relations intern, first with the Baltimore Ravens and then the Indianapolis Colts. I know. And then ended up getting the job with the Titans for the 2013 season. It definitely was not something I was super used to going into broadcasting. I was coming from PR, which is a lot of writing press releases and trying to help out those media people who are on camera, and really enjoyed it. But the opportunity with the Titans came up, and I was kind of asked to interview by a friend of mine who worked with the team before, and it's like, yeah, I'll throw my name in the hat and we'll kind of see what happens, and went through a couple interviews and ended up getting the job. So it has been an incredible learning experience. I couldn't ask for a better person to be working with than the great Mike Keith. He has really helped me kind of hone my craft and grow, and just as a reporter and as a football reporter specifically. So it's been an awesome couple of years. We've been through a lot with this Titans team, and I mean, good years and bad years. It's such an endearing team. The Titans are so easy to cheer for, and I've worked with a lot of great coaches and front office people and players, obviously, and it's been an absolute blast. It's been a joy to be a part of this team, and I'm just so excited about where they're headed right now. We're gonna have a lot of fun this season. I can just feel it in my bones.
Likewise, I mean, I'm very excited. I know Lito is as well. I mean, we go back and forth talking about, hope and hopefully another playoff push, and just great things, especially with the new coaching staff put in place. What's it like working with Mike Keith? Seems like a very cool dude.
Yeah, and I'm going to say a lot of good things about him right now, and he can never know that I said all of these nice things, because it would ruin all of my street cred with Mike Keith. No, he's amazing. He is the most knowledgeable person that I've ever encountered in real life. Keith Bullock calls him the almanac, because it's just any piece of Titans trivia, or you remember a specific game and he could tell you the temperature it was that day. Like, why are these things in your brain, Mike? And he's so intelligent. He's incredibly patient. Recently my office was moved to be right next door to Mike's, so I am in screaming distance. I am in rolling my chair into his office distance. I am constantly bugging that man for something, and he puts up with it. He helps me kind of make some of my dreams a reality when I need a little extra manpower and a little extra push. But his knowledge of the game is just mind-boggling to me. I don't know. The man is a savant when it comes to football knowledge, and specifically Titans football knowledge.
Wow. I know Lito, when we talked to Rhett, he pretty much kind of echoed that same thing with how much exactly Mike knows. What would you like to add to that, Lito?
Oh yeah, we're really big fans of Mike Keith. I mean, we told Rhett previously that Mike Keith is kind of like the soundtrack to our lives for the most part. Because being way out here in New Mexico, you don't get to see a whole lot of games. You either get the Cowboys or the Cardinals or the Broncos, and so you just have to stream everything. And so you hear it, and he just paints his picture. And like whenever he gets excited, you get excited. And whenever he's been really just level on the whole thing. And I remember introducing my wife to like listening to the games, and even she would say like, wow, normally like people are like, oh, that's a crap call, or that's not a good call, but if it's against their team. But Mike's like, yeah, no, we messed up on that one. Like, he's just been really level headed, and just all the little things that he says and does, his mannerisms are just absolutely amazing. He is square on our target list as well to kind of get on here and talk to, because
I'll tell you what, watching Mike Keith prepare is incredible. He is so meticulous, and he is very, very organized. He is so prepared for every game that he calls. So prepared. And it really pushes me to I'm kind of a procrastinator from time to time, and I like to say I thrive under pressure. That is false, but I tell people that when I don't want to do something. And but watching Mike prepare the way that he does, and just he goes through things over and over and over, and he makes sure that he is knowledgeable, and he really holds himself to an incredibly high standard, which is what makes him in my opinion, the best broadcaster in the league. He's incredible. And he pushes everyone around him to be prepared and to over prepare and to really put in the time and the effort. And Mike was the one who got me watching film every single week. And it has helped me so much prepare and get better and feel confident in the things that I'm saying. And I'm not calling a whole football game, but I feel like I am better off because I have seen the way that Mike prepares every single week.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like he's kind of like the Peyton Manning of broadcasting, just over prepares and just knows absolutely every little thing about what's coming down the pipe. That's so
You
great
know,
to
as a
hear.
Tennessee guy, he would really appreciate that analogy.
Wow.
That would bring him a lot of joy.
If you don't tell him that, then whenever we actually get the chance to tell him, which is, again, will happen before I die, before this whole thing is done, we will get him on. If you don't tell him that, we will. And I'm glad he would actually take that as the compliment that it is, because it's definitely a hat tip to that guy.
Well, I can't tell him because that would qualify as a nice thing that I said to Mike, and I try really hard to limit those pleasant encounters. I like to keep him on his toes.
Well,
he puts up with a lot of sass from me.
You
really?
guys seem to have a good rapport, though. I mean, we've heard the podcast so far, and it's great, by the way. I mean, I know Big Mo mentioned it before, but I mean, it's a great podcast, and it's really just awesome to hear you guys kind of back and forth, and you guys seem to have really good chemistry, and that probably came from all this off-air kind of stuff, just the friendship that you have.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he really has been great about just putting up with my nonsense. I can't express how patient of a man he is, but it really is, and we get along very, very well, or at least I say we do. And we do. We spend a lot of time together. A lot of time. I mean, we co-host Titans All Access, a weekly TV show together, and we have a radio show together every Thursday night. We have this podcast now. I'm just trying to find more ways to make Mike spend time with me. And it also seems to correlate into more work for him, which he also really enjoys. So, I mean, we spend a ton of time together. We travel together. We are covering stories all the time. He really is a good friend as well as a terrific coworker, and we have a lot of fun working together. Myself probably more fun than him, but I don't really care that much.
Speaking of the OTP, how hard was it to persuade Mike to go on this venture with you?
Well,
first
I had to teach Mike what a podcast was, and so that was an adventure. No, I got into podcasts a couple of years ago. For a lot of times, I just kind of saw them as backup audio recordings, so like people would dump, like radio shows would do a podcast, but it was just the radio show, or like the church that I went to put all their sermons on podcasts. And so that was all I knew about it until I actually started listening to some of the things like Serial and some of the like longer format storytelling podcasts. And that was kind of the gateway drug to get me into sort of the sports podcasts and things like that. So once I really got on board with those, I was like, dude, we could totally do this. We are so much funnier than all of these people. And so I took it to Mike. Oh gosh, it was easily 2 years ago, if not more. And I was like, Mike, we need to do this. And he just kind of looked at me like, I don't even know what words you're saying. I don't understand what any of this means. I was like, dude, this is great. We can reach so many people. It's not going to be any harder for us to do. We already do radio shows all the time. And so we know how to do it. It's just loading it onto a different platform. So it was something that we started and stopped, and then something else would come up and we'd all get distracted. And so about every January or February, I would really be a dog with a bone again and push and push and push. And I could see him starting to wear down last year. And then some things switched and we started focusing on some other projects. And then this year, I got him at a weak moment. I don't even know how it happened. I don't think I could replicate it, but he caved. He agreed, and we kind of got the ball rolling. Myself and Jeff Harding does all of our editing and recording and all of that technical stuff for the podcast. He jumped on board, so then we kind of double teamed Mike, and that really pushed it forward even more. And we just started basically putting equipment together and said, this is going to happen. And everyone just kind of hopped on board. So we're 2 episodes in. I think that they have both had a lot of Titans content that I hope people are interested in. We're still very much trying to find our footing with the whole thing and figure out how it's going to go and what it's going to look like as we transition into football season once that time comes, like what that format's going to be. But we are having so much fun doing it, and it's this thing that's constantly on my brain now. I don't know if you guys are like this, but I am consistently thinking about like who I can sneak attack with a microphone and then put it on the podcast, like all the time. Everybody is a potential victim. I'm just so excited about it. And I was making phone calls yesterday at 7:30 in the morning looking for numbers and stats and how well things are doing and how long are people listening. And I'm crazy about it. So I'm hoping it's successful, and I hope that people like what's on there, because we're just talking about the things that we care about, and hope that Titans fans care as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, you guys had Charles Davis. That was a great interview.
Mm-hmm.
Pat Kerwin, another great interview. I really enjoyed the Belichick story with Vrabel. I know that you mentioned something that kind of motivated you guys to want to start a podcast was that you felt you didn't have enough time to really go in depth and tell kind of the behind the scenes stories, or dedicate enough time to tell the stories you wanted to tell. Now that you have that outlet at your fingertips, like what's the excitement level?
Oh my gosh, it's through the roof. there is no number. We constantly sit and are funneling through either different interviews we do or big feature stories, and there's so much content there, but we have to get it down to a 4-minute piece or a 2-minute piece. We have to really be aware of time limits, whether we're trying to put it on a TV show or discuss something on a radio show, but then you have to take commercial breaks. And in storytelling, you never feel like you have enough time to say the things that you want to say. And this format, we are in charge of everything. There are no rules when it comes to podcasting. So I'm so excited about the opportunity that we're able to have to take, maybe I do an interview with Wesley Woodyard. It's a 15-minute interview. We can only use like a minute and a half of that, but he says so many good things. I mean, he's a very smart fella. So we can take some of those other things and put them on the podcast, and then fans get to hear them too. I mean, we have so many awesome conversations and interactions and things that we get to be privy to, but we haven't really had a medium to share them with people that there were no restrictions on. There's no time constraints. There's no trying to fit things in and make them all fit together. We can just kind of go. And so, I mean, I'll walk into Mike's office and say, well, we've done this, 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 and this. Think we can mush all that together? And he's like, yeah, probably. And it just kind of happens. So really, really excited once football gets going and once things start happening around the league. I mean, gosh, owners' meetings are 3 weeks away, and there's all kinds of stuff that's going on that I'm excited to be able to talk about and tell those stories and flesh them out a lot more than we usually get to.
So on that, I have a two-parter that's kind of touching on this. I'm kind of curious who's the funniest player you ever interviewed, because I know we got a lot of characters on the team. And then if you can, any awkward moments during interviews, because those are the things that typically hit the cutting room floor. So I'm kind of curious on if you've had any of those.
Oh my gosh. Well, for the second part, I am just a very uncomfortable interviewer anyway. So the person who primarily edits my stuff, Ashley Farrell, is also one of my good friends from college. If you need someone to edit your stuff, please hire your friend, because she won't let me look stupid on camera, but golly, 98% of the stuff that I say is just ridiculous. Taylor Lewan consistently makes me laugh. Like, there is not a day that goes by that Taylor isn't doing something that just is insane. And Taylor and I have an interesting relationship because we co-hosted a radio show together in 2015, I guess. And it was 2015. Nope, 16. One of those years. We co-hosted a podcast or a radio show. And it was just Mike Keith refers to it as the scariest experience of his life because we had no clue what Taylor was going to say. The team was not doing well. That was 2-14 year, so whatever year that was, 2015. So football was just excruciating to talk about. I mean, there were plenty of stories to tell, and we talked about football. But Taylor would just walk in the room and say, "We're not talking about football today," and it'd be like 3, 2, 1, you're on. It's like, what could happen? And oh man, we had such a blast. We just had a really good time. And so we have that kind of rapport and that chemistry from spending that year together. And he constantly has me in stitches. But we have an incredibly funny locker room. Like, I think football players in general are just hilarious humans to me. I am always laughing at work. But this locker room specifically, the one that we have right now, is just a bunch of guys who are really good friends. And so it's the interactions between them, and then it's a lot of guys I've known for a while. And so you're just kind of like this weird crop that becomes part of everybody's jokes. And it's very strange, but so funny. So we are constantly laughing around that building, I'll tell you what. But I'm trying to think of some of my best uncomfortable things that I've done that I could tell you about. Mark Mariani, remember him?
Oh yeah.
Wide receiver. He was my first interview I did, like long form, sit down, one-on-one interview I'd ever done in my whole life. And they put me with Mark because he is one of the best human beings in the whole wide world. And so they knew that he would go with it. For some reason, I had in my brain that his name was Mike. For the entire interview, I referred to him as Mike Mariani. The entire time. So that was great. That was a good way to get started. And he kept correcting me was the problem. And I would feel horrified and terrible. And then I'd like start focusing on my questions and how am I going to do this? And I call him Mike again and he would correct me again. It was, just excruciating. I've done a lot of things with names. I've butchered just every name in the book. I mean, I struggle with names anyway. My brain is one of those brains that just doesn't retain people's names. And it's not that I don't care, and it's not that I don't think you're valuable, and I'm not enjoying this conversation. I could tell you a story about anyone that I've met one time. Like, oh yeah, their mom did this, and they live over here. But like, oh yeah, what's their name? No clue. Steven? Everybody is Steven to me for some reason. I don't know why. It's just like my go-to name. Steven or like Marge.
Steven or Marge?
Steven or Marge. They're like my go-to safety names. It's really strange. But I don't know, Marge over there. She wanted to know. No one's name is Marge, eh? Yeah. So names are probably where I mess things up the most. But gosh, I've fumbled words. I've had people I do post-game interviews when the Titans win up on the big Jumbotron. And that's nerve-wracking because there's a lot of people watching those. And you can't really hear what they're saying, and you're hearing feedback from the monitor. And so it's a very uncomfortable situation anyway. And they're all hyped up. So I've had people like grab me and hug me or like push me, or someone just like carried me away once. That was weird. Like, because there's just so much energy and emotion in that moment. And those are always just a trip because you're trying to find a guy and he's like signing a jersey and you want to pull him away, but like you want to let him have his moment, but you need him. And those post-game interviews are just constant chaos. I'm amazed that they still let me do those because it's always something goofy.
Awesome.
Yeah, the wheels consistently come off when I do interviews. I try really hard to keep it together, but there's only so much you can do when you're talking about a game, you know? I mean, we're not doing brain surgery here. It's very serious. It's people's jobs. It's what we all spend our whole lives thinking about. But at the end of the day, we're just talking ball, and so I can only keep it together for so long.
Well, when you keep it real, it makes it a lot more relatable, too. So, I mean, those little stumbles and stuff that people have, they're just, I mean, it's reality. It's human nature. So I think that kind of loosens things up a little bit, makes it seem a little less scripted and more real, so it's more relatable for people just watching or catching it later. It's like, oh, okay, cool, that was fun.
Oh, absolutely. And I found if you tell a guy that this is the first interview you've ever done, they'll give you more grace. So I lie to people all the time. I'm like, yeah, I've never done this before. Magically, they'll buy it. It's so great.
Interesting. We might have to steal that.
Yeah.
Maybe like 20
Trust me,
episodes
it works like
in.
a charm.
You
Yeah,
know,
you never know.
So on that, like, I mean, you discussed some of the fun that you've had since being with the organization, but what would you say is the best memory you've had since joining the team?
My best memory. Holy smokes, guys. Winning in Kansas City this past year in the playoffs is high. That was pretty special. Winning in 2016 when we went on that stretch where we beat the Packers and the Broncos and the Chiefs, and it all was like back to back to back.
Oh, that was fun.
That was really a fun time. It was really something special, and you just felt like you were hot all the time. You know, It was just, nothing could go wrong in those weeks. It was like magic. So that was really fun. Beating the Colts twice this year was really fun for me. That was a personal thing that I really enjoyed.
We enjoyed it too.
Oh gosh, there have been so many cool memories though. And like the first place my brain goes, which is not sexy at all, but like we have a lot of like press conferences that Matt weirdly get emotional in. So like every time we hire someone, like hiring John Robinson and his kind of opening statement, I was like a puddle on the floor. I was just so excited and proud. I cry a lot in press conferences, which is so strange, but it's a real thing that happens. I'm trying to think what else. There have been so many cool moments and being a part of any football organization, there are, just because the highs are so unbelievably high, and then obviously the lows are incredibly low, but it's constantly such a fun ride, and I can't imagine having a job that didn't just rip your heart out every week. I mean, I don't know how I would function.
Well, it's because you're passionate about it, and then it's nice whenever people are passionate about it. You see other sports reporters that are just really cold and collected, like it's just another day at the office for them, and there's no umph behind it, and it's really nice to have an organization where the people who are reporting, the people who are calling the plays, everybody top to bottom is just so invested, just like the fans are. We're paying money for this, and with organizations, like, they're paying the reporters, and so sometimes they just kind of check out and it's like, oh yeah, whatever, we lost. What do you think was the keys to the loss? And it's just really cold, and it's nice to have people who are passionate about it, for sure.
I've always said that when I get to the point where I don't get goosebumps walking in the building every day, that's when I know it's time to hang it up. Like, there are so many things that you'll realize during the course of a football season, because listen, it's a grind. I'm not going to say that this is all flowers and buttercups, because we are working, and it's long hours, and it's a million days on end, and you feel like you're never going to see your friends ever again in your whole life. And it's a grind going through football season, but you always have to stop and realize how just amazingly fortunate we are to have the job that we have. And I am consistently just floored that I'm given a paycheck to go stand out at practice for 2.5 hours every day and watch guys run around on a football field. And I feel so fortunate when I turn on ESPN to see what's going on, and it's a Titans player, and I'm like, hey, I know that guy. Like, I work with that guy. That's my coworker. It's standing on the sidelines at any NFL game is amazing, but then to realize that I've been doing this for a long time. I know a lot of these people down here. Like, these are my friends that are down on this field. It's a really strange and surreal experience always having the job that I'm lucky enough to have. And if I ever get to a point where I feel like I'm consistently taking that for granted, then it's time for me to walk away, because I never want to get to the point where I don't appreciate how awesome my job is. Sometimes I get very frustrated with it. Sometimes I get really tired and crabby about things, but the actual job will never lose its luster. I hope.
I can't imagine it would. I mean, that's the dream job, at least in my eyes. I know Lito would probably say the same thing.
Oh yeah, I would drop everything and move out there tonight. If I even had a chance to interview, I'd be like, all right, no, I'm gone.
See ya.
So, I hear you on that one.
So, Amy, you mentioned you kind of tend to get emotional with press conferences and shed a few tears with John Robinson's. How'd you hold up with Vrabel when he was introduced as the new coach?
Oh, yeah, I cried then too. Don't you worry.
Oh, did you? Oh,
Oh my gosh. Here's
did
the
Vrabel
thing.
see you crying?
No, I don't think so. When we have
Oh.
press conferences, I'm back in the back of the room working the soundboard.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I'm pretty well hidden. You got to be looking to find me. So I think I was okay. I am very easily motivated. Like, I just like pep talks and like good speeches and things like that. And I get fired up. I'm ready to go because I'm not athletic and I can't do anything. The way that manifests itself is crying. So for me, it's like a good football montage, that like really gets you fired up from all the highlights. Other people like start walking around or like, yeah, I want to play some ball. And I'm just like weeping to myself. It's very strange, but I just get emotional. I get excited. And so yeah, he is such a good speaker. He's such a good motivator.
Oh, yeah,
and
for sure.
I mean, just in the few times that I've seen him speak, whether it's at a event for season ticket members or at a press conference or whatever, he is incredibly well spoken and he gets you fired up. And so I'm like single trickling tearing it in the back while everyone else is like, yeah, I agree with your point. I'm just like silently just streaming tears. But it's part of buying in, it's part of being part of the group, and I can't do anything, so I just cry.
That's funny.
That's great, though. I mean, everybody's got their own response to that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I totally get it. I mean, I
Yeah,
have like
but
a perma smile.
I'm not a crier by nature. I think I should make that clear. Like, really sad movies don't really do much for me. Sad story in the news, oh, that sucks. But like a football montage, whoa, like waterworks.
Hall of
It's
Fame
so
speeches
strange.
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that stuff gets me going. But like, you had a hard day, that's unfortunate. I'm really sorry about that. Like, it's just very strange.
I'm a little curious, and Lito, I mean, you could echo this point if you want or not, but have you noticed, Amy, like an energy shift since Vrabel has, took the reins and kind of with some of the hires he made? Like, has there been like a shift in energy either in the city itself or just with some of the players that you come in contact with?
Well, every time you get, whether it's a coaching change or there's a lot of new changes, you feel it every year after the draft. And
Okay.
When you get a new group of people in there, it's this shift and feeling of like endless opportunities. Like, this is the year. These are our pieces. This year it's happening so much earlier because we are in such a good situation. We are a playoff winning. We didn't win all of the playoffs, but we won a playoff game. So we're a playoff team in my mind. We have a new coaching staff that is just stacked with both veteran coaches and young up-and-coming coaches. So we've got the best of both worlds in that regard. We have some great players who are coming back, guys who obviously have been proven to be successful. Plus, we've got this draft coming up, and the sky's the limit when it comes to the draft. I mean, who knows who you end up getting? So the energy, not only in the building, is just it's fresh, it's exciting. Everybody wants to just work their butts off to try and get going. So some of us are having a hard time remembering that like football doesn't start for a while, and because I'm ready to go tomorrow. But yeah, the energy has definitely shifted in the building. Everybody is just looking forward to what's about to come, and everyone's really excited to get players back in the building. But the city also is super excited. I mean, we have started to regain the trust of fans around here, and we had so many games this year where the stadium was just rocking, and fans are starting to come back. Fans are getting excited, and it's been awesome to see the city turn back into a football city, and football is so big in the South, whether it's high school football or college football, and the Titans just fit so perfectly into that. It's been really, really fun to watch Nashville turn into Titan Town during the season. It's it's a really fun time to be a Titan.
It's just so cool to hear people like from the point of view, not only in the city, but also in the organization, see this kind of stuff coming. Because, from an outsider's perspective, being, whether one state away, half a country away, or, there's people, in Ireland. I found out recently, we have people in France and Australia and stuff like that who actually listen and who, from the outsider's perspective, they're looking in from this town that's way over there, and I think it's nice to know that everybody's just as pumped as we are, because I know Nashville was for a while there kind of quiet, and then the Preds started taking off, and so Predators were a real big thing. Broadway was getting pummeled and crowded and everything, with all the fans standing outside with in the finals. But I remember it, and I will always see it as Titans Town, and so that's the memory I have in my mind. And so just to kind of hear that reiterated and kind of solidified is just, it's living up to my dreams. I love it. I absolutely love it.
The whole city is really getting behind us. We had a season ticket member event, and there were 8,000 people there on a Wednesday or Thursday night. It was just so cool to have people out there for this event. And I mean, we have the new uniforms coming up, and we have it's the 20th season of Titans football, so that's so exciting. There's just constantly things that are going on. Obviously, the draft is coming up. Free agency is in 3 days. Oh, my gosh. And there's just so many things that are going on, and there's so many possibilities. It's really hard, in my very biased opinion. It would be hard to not be excited about this Titans team.
Yeah, I'd agree for sure.
Definitely.
I mean, the season can't come soon enough.
I know.
But we get to enjoy these little things like the combine, preparation for the draft. I wish the season was here already. I wish it was a couple weeks away, but all this excitement is just going to keep building and building, I believe. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned on the OTP that you attended the combine. It's one of the things that you love. Outside of Shaquille Griffin, were there any other players that really popped that, caught your eye a little bit?
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't see a ton of the workouts. Here's what the combine looks for me. And this is why I started in football. I started in sports because of the NFL combine.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just I've always loved it. I think it's just such a cool opportunity. It's awesome to see these guys, they've trained so hard. Their dreams are coming true. It's one of those things I get emotional about. But I was in college, and it was my freshman year of college. I was a political science major at the time, and my dad calls me one Friday night, and he asked me what I was doing, and I was like, Dad, the combine's on. I said, I just ordered a pizza, and I'm sitting in bed, and I'm taking my little notes. What do you think I'm doing? And he was like, it's a Friday night. You're in college. What are you doing? I was like, well, Dad, the combine's on. What do you mean? What am I doing? And he said to me, if you don't get a job in sports, I swear to God. And I was like, job in sports, huh? And I switched my major the next day to broadcast journalism. So with an emphasis in sports broadcast. So it's always been something that I've loved. Now, when I go, my experience has very little to do with the actual workouts that are on the field. Those happen at Lucas Oil Stadium. We are in the convention center, so next door. I mean, we're right there. But we're in a room full of reporters. Every national reporter is there. Every person you've ever read from whatever media you could ever think of is there covering that event. And they put us all in one big old room, and that's where they bring the players through to do all their podium and media availabilities. The bench press is there, which is why I was in the area when Griffin had his amazing benching just extravaganza, we'll call it, because it was so much more than just a workout. So we're kind of away from the workouts on the field. So I see him on TV like everybody else. So I wasn't down there for that. And a lot of times I'm running around trying to grab this person, do an interview with this guy over here, figure out who's talking. And it's every person from the NFL really is there. So it's also a big reunion for all of us. All the team's reporters are there. Old people that I've worked with from different coaches, people who are general managers, all the scouts from every team are there. So I am moving and grooving when we were at the combine. So I haven't seen a ton of workouts. I did watch some of the quarterbacks workouts because that was the big buzz and everybody was so excited about the quarterbacks. And so I saw a little bit of that just because I made it a point to. But yeah, what my combine experience is all about moving and shaking and trying to get as many interviews as possible. It's less about the workouts. Full disclosure, I usually go back and watch them like closer to the draft.
That's probably smart, though. You don't get yourself too amped up. You don't read too much into anything until it's really close to the draft, and you can't kind of sell yourself or fall in love with someone. So that's actually probably pretty smart.
Yeah, I've got to take whatever safeties I can to avoid the heartbreak that is falling in love with a player and then having him go to a team, especially if it's a team that you know you're playing that year. Ugh, insult to injury.
Do you think this will be more of a defensive draft, or do you think the Titans are still trying to add more offensive pieces? Where do you think their head's at, or do you really have a guess?
Yeah, it's hard to tell at this point because I'm not familiar with this coaching staff. I don't really know how they want their roster to look in a couple weeks. And some of the holes will show themselves once we get through the major part of free agency. That's where things will kind of the picture starts to come in focus a little bit more in free agency. So you'll see, we added another, receiver. Okay. Now that leaves X, Y, and Z that we still need. Oh, we just got another DB. Okay, so that leaves this and that. So you start to kind of see the pieces of the puzzle and where they're going to go once free agency starts. I would not be surprised if the team were to add. I mean, here's the thing. You can never have too many wide receivers. You can never have too many defensive backs.
True.
You can never have too many linebackers. So I really, really think that other than kind of those obvious answers, because, well, yeah, everyone pretty much does that every year, I think free agency is going to be the tell. I think that that's really where we're going to see, because, I mean, you always want to have offensive linemen. That's another one that pops into my head. But I mean, that will kind of show itself in free agency, depending on what happens with guys with Quentin Spain and Josh Klein and all those guys. With linebacker, obviously, you've got whatever happens with Avery. I have been telling everyone who will listen, including the general manager, that just personally, I would like a big edge rusher, just another guy who can complement the likes of Brian Orakpo and Jarrell Casey and Derek Morgan and all those guys. So that's just like on my personal wish list based on not necessarily need, but just one of my favorite positions. So I just think that would be fun. So that's kind of my vote when it comes to the draft. That's what I would like to draft. But I think that what the team is actually going to do will come into focus a lot more once we get free agency kind of rocking and rolling and start to see where there are still some places of need.
Yeah. I'd agree with you myself because, I think Lito would too. Like, edge rusher is what I think the team needs the most now, and it's just difficult to find a premier edge rusher when you're picking outside of the top 10, and they don't really pop out during free agency. Teams try to keep their solid pass rushers in place and try to sign them and not let them walk. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if we even stay at 25 or if J-Rob has another trick up his sleeve and moves up and lands a edge rusher, But once free agency plays it out, I think you're right. We will have more of a clear picture of what the team's going to do moving forward.
Yeah, the thing that we all have to remember is John Robinson ain't afraid of nobody. I mean, he is a cowboy, so he's going to do whatever he thinks is going to benefit this team the most, whether it's kind of having a low-key free agency and then moving into the draft, whether it's doing something ridiculous in free agency and then doing some trading at the draft. I think that anything is possible as long as John Robinson is driving the train, and I'm so okay with it.
Have you ever seen a general manager more loved by their fans than John Robinson? It seems like he just can't do any wrong with anybody.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and it helps that he is a local kid. I mean, He's from Tennessee. The story is lovely. You can tell it is very, very obvious that he loves this team. And so I think fans really pick up on that and fans really respond to it. And he's made some great moves in his short time as an NFL general manager. And so I think the best is yet to come. And he's already made some pretty big splashes. So I think that's exciting. The only person who kind of jumps to my brain as someone who is also super beloved is Ozzie Newsome with the Baltimore Ravens. Mm-hmm. I know things have kind of come off as of late, but man, Ozzie for a while was the king of Baltimore. He could do no wrong, man. He was something else.
Oh, he was the wizard. He was the Wizard of Oz. I love it. My brother was the first one who told me about the little saying of "In Oz we trust," because he's a Ravens fan. He was like, they'll sometimes do something crazy and nobody knows what's going on, and then lo and behold, that guy's an All-Pro or Pro Bowl, or much like J-Rob pulling a safety in the third round that wasn't even invited to the Pro Bowl, and then now 2 years later wasn't even invited to the Combine. I'm sorry. Now 2 years later he's an All-Pro Pro Bowl safety, and I think that kind of shut everybody up of, if he does make a move that people don't agree with, he's definitely earned that right for everybody to just be like, all right, I don't see it, but we'll give it a year or two because I've been wrong so many times before.
Yeah, he's a pretty incredible talent evaluator, and our whole scouting department, they just work, man. I don't know how they do it. They're just incredible. Their knowledge, they're able to evaluate guys and kind of see through some of the dust and get to the bigger picture. It's a skill that I will always be envious of.
All right, in talking about how talented the scouts are, I remember hearing something that they're very young, and that J-Rob has kind of pushed his influence on what to look for, what he would like. Can you speak to that at all, or are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm not in the room, obviously, when they do those things. They actually try their best to keep me as far away from that as possible because my distraction was shiny things. I do know that John Robinson was brought up in the business. He just was. I mean, spending 15 years in the Patriots is not a bad place to kind of break in. And he knows what he wants. He knows what he likes. And honestly, he has been on point multiple times just since he's been with the Titans. So I think that he definitely has a style. He has we've all heard a million times, he wants strong, tough, dependable, consistent, football players. And I think that having that as an overarching, very clear goal and very well-defined thing that you're looking for helps give everyone direction. It helps everyone kind of hone in on what does a Titan look like. And so, having young guys, A, gives you the opportunity to have them be around for a while, and B, you really can train them up in the way that you want them to go, which I do not think is a bad thing at all.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think he clearly has an idea of what he wants his team to be moving forward. I mean, he sees the bigger picture. He didn't start building the house by starting on the roof. You know what I mean? He started with the foundation, finding the pieces that he needed. And like Lito mentioned earlier, we have no reason not to trust his judgment or his decision-making moving forward. I mean, I would guess it was a little bit difficult recently cutting DeMarco Murray because that was his first big splashy move. But I think the fact that he went a step further to kind of show his respect, the respect he had for DeMarco as a player and what he brought to the organization on the field and off the field, I think that speaks to J-Rob's character tremendously. What would you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy, he cares about his players. He just does. And with DeMarco, I mean, it's always hard. I mean, this time of year when things like that start happening, it's excruciating, and no one likes to tell a guy that he's been let go, or even telling guys that you're not renewing their contract, they're free agents, and it's awful. It's never fun. It's the same way after training camp, when there are all the cuts that go through when you've got to get the roster down to 53. It's miserable. But DeMarco's contributions to the Tennessee Titans will never go unrecognized, unacknowledged. He was one of the key pieces in getting this organization back on its feet. And he was a good man. He was always great to work with. He was a leader in the locker room. He worked so hard. He played through injuries. He was a total professional. I mean, nobody anywhere has a bad thing to say about DeMarco Murray. And I think that it just got to be, it's a business decision. And that's such a cliche thing that people say all the time. But it is. That's exactly what this business is. And the level of appreciation is never lost.
Yeah, with this release, I mean, typically as a Titans fan, you see a lot of reaction being like, oh, geez, finally, or what took him so long. With this one, it's just like, thank you, DeMarco. Like, you were a huge part of this. And, like, I don't think, nobody really kind of looked at it as, well, finally, or had anything bad. It was just like, thank you. Like, you meant so much to this organization, and everyone sees it. And I think it's kind of a reflection of not only him, but how it was handled by J-Rob and the organization and the fans in general, because it's, you know, whenever we cut players in the past, it was totally, totally different. And I don't think I've seen one person say anything bad about DeMarco Murray, no matter what, recently.
Yeah, there's nothing bad to say. I mean, he was a great coworker. He was a great player. He was a great leader. No, I can't think of a single person who would have anything negative to say about DeMarco Murray. He was a great addition to this team, and he was a huge piece of the Titan success.
Yeah, I'll always see him as,
no question.
Yeah, I'll always see him as a Titan. I know he was more of a Cowboy, but I'll always see him as a Titan, and I'll always be thankful for what he did, because that was awesome. He was great for us.
Yeah.
I was going to speak, Amy, to you about what are your interests outside of when you're not immersed in Titans football or football in general. I kind of wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't spend a lot of time outside of football, which is, and we all kind of suffer from the same sickness. It's a condition. But no, I mean, the season is more and more a year-round thing, and so we're working all the time. And for me, one of my ways that I unwind is I love college football. I love it. Missouri Tigers till I die, man. And so I like, one of my things that I do is I watch my Tigers play. And so I spend a lot of time in football. My poor friends, they put up with just so much nonsense out of me, because we'll all get together and we want to talk about our lives. And my friends are sports fans, but obviously their whole existence doesn't revolve around it. So it's always just like, okay.
A little different, right?
Yeah, what can you contribute to this conversation? Nothing? Okay, good. We'll circle back when we're talking about sports. Yeah, so that's a little crazy. But I have recently discovered that I really, really enjoy hiking. I've been doing a lot of hiking. Anytime I can get outside and just walk around, I love to do that. Just be outdoors. And so that's a big thing. I love to cook. The jury is out as to whether I'm actually good at it or not. Because I'm usually just cooking for me. I mean, but I haven't killed myself, so I'm sure it's at least edible. But I really enjoy doing it. I mean, there's so many cool things that you can do in the kitchen, and I just like mixing things together and trying out a new recipe or learning how to do something new or using new like crazy kitchen gadgets. I just got an immersion blender, and it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. You guys know about this? This crafty piece of technology? Dude, this is not new, I just bought one recently. It's like it looks like a wand, and it's got a little blade on the bottom of it, and you can use it to make like soups and things and blend them up in the pot instead of pouring it into a blender and making a big mess. This thing is so cathartic. I've made soup like 4 times in 3 weeks because I just want to blend the crap out of it. It is so fun for me. But yeah, I love being in the kitchen and just focusing on a task that has nothing to do with anything that's going on in the world. You know, I can be focused on this and I get a delicious meal when I'm done. So really into cooking, and I'm a binge watcher, man. I can binge watch some TV series. Not a big movie person. Every movie that you love, I promise I've never seen it. Unless it's Harry Potter.
Unless it's football?
I've seen most of the football movies and all the Harry Potters. Pretty much out other than that. Like, I don't see a ton of movies, but I love TV series. I will just I've been watching TV all day today. Actually, it's a Sunday, so I can do that. And I actually have been binge watching a football show, which is even better. But I can just go through some TV series, man. Just block out the world. These people become my friends like by 3 episodes. So then it's not even work at that point. You just want to know what's going on with your friends. That's pretty much it though. Those are kind of my like me time activities. I'm a pretty chill person when I'm alone. Like I used to be super social, and I would have to have like all this stimulation with all these different people, and I always had to be out doing something, and I wanted to be where the action was. The older I get, the less I care. The more I'm just like, man, I am tired. I'm going home. You guys are fun, but you're not that fun. So I've kind of developed in like the last couple of years, I've become this homebody, and I'll go home and I'll make a meal for myself and like listen to my zippy little like jazz music while I'm cooking, so I feel like I'm fancy, and like eat my meal, watch a TV show, and go to bed. Like that's my evenings. I am the lamest person that I know, but I spend a lot of time during the day doing really fun things, so I'm hoping that negates my nighttime lameness.
Oh yeah, I'd say that
you earn your rest.
That balances out definitely. So, do you watch Breaking Bad? Did you get into that?
Oh my gosh! So I tried to watch Breaking Bad 1. It's kind of slow starting, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's tough to get into. So I haven't exactly gotten to the part where it gets better. So I tried it once and then abandoned it because it was in the middle of training camp, and training camp is a hard time to start like brushing your teeth, let alone watching a massively long TV series like that. You just don't have time for anything. So I fell off the wayside, and then I tried again last night, and I didn't even make it through the first episode. I fell asleep. So I still desperately want to like it because everyone tells me it is the greatest show, but I also haven't seen The Wire, and I have been told that is a crime against humanity, especially because I lived in Baltimore for over a year. So I think that I'm going to do The Wire and then try again. 3rd time's the charm with Breaking Bad. Give that a shot and then see where I go from there.
That's fair enough. First time I tried watching Breaking Bad, I couldn't get into it either. But it was sold to me. Yeah, it's sold to me as like, oh, it's the greatest show ever, and it's just nonstop and everything. And so I should have told them all to shut up, because whenever people sell like a movie like that to you, you go and watch it and you're like, it wasn't that great. And it's like even more detrimental whenever it's a show, because you're expecting it to be just nonstop, and then you take a step back and it's like, well, I guess they do kind of have to, establish the characters and that kind of stuff. So you have to give it a lot longer to really get into it. But yeah, I get that.
Yeah, the billing is so high on that show that I want it to sweep me off my feet, and it hasn't yet. So I'm going to have to be patient and give it some time. But I did, just today, I finished watching The Newsroom that was on HBO for a couple seasons.
That's a good show.
That was a good show. And everyone said the first episode will just blow you away. And they were right. I was standing on my couch, very first episode, yelling at the TV.
That's a great show. I came across that show on accident. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry, you got me totally off base with that one. So if you like hiking and you like good food,
you'd love New Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do out here. We just go for walks and we're hiking and it's outdoors, and the food out here is better than anywhere else. I hear players from the Denver Broncos like, oh, the green chili in Colorado is the best, and it's like New Mexico. We're looking like, that's not even chili, man. That's like ketchup and peppers. That is that's not chili.
Is what that is.
It is. Out here you go to any Walmart and you see people roasting chili right in front, and they sell it right in front. You go to McDonald's and they have a green chili cheeseburger on the menu, and like it's a part of the culture out here. So if you would love it out here with the food and the hiking and the outdoors, and it's
especially in August. That's the time, man, when they're roasting the chili.
Yeah. Ooh, that sounds like hot in a lot of different ways.
It is, in all ways you can think of, to be honest.
Yeah, it sounds hot in a lot of different ways. I was telling you guys, we spent that week in Phoenix, and I'd been to Phoenix a couple other times, and I just really love that part of the country. I love the landscape. I love the colors. I love that I can be outside all the time. I did not love running into a coyote. That was less fun. But other
Should have
than
took
that,
Ben Jones with you.
I should have taken Ben Jones with me. I didn't know. We were staying at the same hotel. But
You're professional.
yeah, I didn't know he had these skills until recently. And also, I think it has to be more of a stationary coyote for Ben to really get into it. But that's a whole different thing. But no, I have just fallen in love with that whole region. So New Mexico is definitely next on my list.
Well, good. You would really enjoy it, I think.
Let us know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my wife can cook up some green chili stew. We can go out and get some good, awesome foods and go to some great hiking trails, either north or south. I know the north a little bit better. Mo knows the south a little bit better. So wherever you go, we got you covered.
Well, shoot, we'll do it all. We'll just make a whole week of it.
That sounds great.
That's awesome.
We'll hike from the south to the north, and we'll figure it all out.
There you
Perfect.
go. Yeah.
That's some exercise right there. I try not to exercise. I try to more casually hike as opposed to do it for physical fitness. I am not very athletic, and so I try to avoid all athletic things because it's just embarrassing, really.
Well, you'll do fine. There's only a few rocks you can trip on and bust your face on up here. So.
Yeah, you only get one face, you gotta look out for things like that.
You only get one thing.
That's very true. I hadn't thought about it like that. All right. Mo, do you have anything else?
I don't, man. I really don't. I really appreciate you, sitting down, taking the time to talk with us, Amy. You really do. Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys are a blast. We'll just have to start chatting all the time, whether it's being recorded or not.
Yeah, I think we're both totally okay with that. We hear that a lot from the people with Rhett and with Nate and other people. It seems like people kind of respond to this, and we're not doing anything special. We're just kind of hanging out, drinking a beer, and talking Titans football. It's a lot of fun.
Yep.
That's how it's supposed to be, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're all here to do.
Exactly. Well, we really appreciate you coming on with us, Amy. It's been an absolute pleasure, absolute blast. And we're telling everybody this that is anywhere even near the organization. Next time you see Miss Adams Strunk, give her a big hug from the Titans of the Southwest, because we will hug her before this whole thing is done. That's just going to happen. She seems like a very huggable person.
That's our goal.
I would agree. She is rather huggable, but don't tell her I told you that.
Perfectly fine. We'll accept that. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me on, guys. This was fun. We should do it all the time.
Yeah, we'll have you on again for sure.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.